Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Dr. Angel, how are you?
Doing great. How about yourself?
Fantastic. I can't believe this is our last episode of the 14 points of the reflex points would cause negative reaction. And as usual, I'm super excited you're here. And for everybody who's watching us today, thank you for joining us. And of course, as before, a little quick intro why we do what we do and why it's so important to know these, well, reflex points would cause nasty reaction. In the past, we talked about the spinal nerves. We talked about the wither cup or the pinching of the withers. We talked about the lung meridian point, talked about the cartilage on the horse and the bucking reflex points. Today, we're going to talk about these four. Those four are sitting on the edge of the latissimus and the pectoralis. So often overseen and yet so easy to fix if we understand the why. Because one of the oldest sayings is the person knows the how will always follow the person who knows the why. And that's why since thousands of years, people always find a way, what's the best way to have a good communication between horse and rider with their saddles. You know, in the army times, they mapped the horse. They were actually trained to locate those points so the equipment can avoid that point. In the end of the day, there's this huge discussion, what is really saddle fitting? You know, if you ask the people who sell, they say, oh, this is a good saddle that fits you well because their profit is probably pretty high. Or there are people who actually are very good goal oriented. They say, oh, yeah, your saddle slides forward. Let's put a croup on or let's put a point billet on. They solve maybe the problem, but they don't look at the all horse approach. They don't look at, you're actually causing more problems than get rid of this one particular problem. So you see that often just when it's looked from a saddle fitter or from a trainer or from a rider, you know, I have one problems. Of course, they don't want to create more problems. So if you look at the saddle fitting from a horse's point of view, well, that's what most veterinarians, chiropractor, body workers do, because they don't want to create more problems. They don't care how profitable that saddle is or what opinionated it is. They're going by science. At the end of the day, let's face it, horses are a little bit more in tune with environment than we are. And for thousands of years, we have trained our horses to be light on the forehand, to bring the back up, to ride the horse round, like we see on the top picture. Because in nature, when the horse does a sliding stop, spins on a hind leg, and creates all this force from behind, this red stuff, the nuclear ligament system, kind of like the cable on the Golden Gate Bridge, you know, supports this massive animals with the saddles and the riders on. And then the entire front legs are free. Unfortunately, sometimes when money is involved and people want to cut corners and want to whip the horse in shape or crank and spank, what we use the terms in some English terms in the dressage world, when they just, so long their head is down and the front legs flicker, that's great. But then we create the opposite. The horse is hollow, hind legs are out, and look how the full fetlock is bent and almost touch the front leg. This is what, for thousands of years, we have to get these horses light on their legs. So we have people from all around the world to say, you know, the equipment is actually not going the good way. It actually it cuts corner and creates more damage than we as the veterinarians can fix. So when we go to the old way, have the saddle spread the weight over a large bearing surface, right, the green area, and stay away of the red area. Sometimes it fits, but then you have this girth, or you have an annoying issue because of what we talked about. The edges, the trigger points on the latissimus, what makes the horses hollow. And on the bottom here, these vets from the University of Davis have their hands beneath the spine. You can see how the spinal processes fall backwards, and there's some straight, and then they fall forward. So hollow the back, so closer the spinal process touching. Overriding spinal process is a term also nicknamed kissing spine. That's not what we want. That's why we want the back to come up. So looking from the top of the shape of the horse, everything goes forward. The girth wants to go forward. So sometimes crazy girth gets designed, or the saddle goes forward, but we forget all these other little things. And today's episode is all about helping to avoid saddles to purposely hyperextend the horse. Yes, I know for some folks who like the sport, oh, this is not fair. He talks about this. But I also want to tell you that sometimes girth particular hit a spot to invert a horse. Okay. So horses don't care if you have a golden buckle, if you have the biggest buckle, if you have the biggest name, the biggest sponsorship. Horses are flight or fight. And if they can't fight or flight, then they go internal. They get depressed. So it's a very simple system in our body, the same thing. If I push on here hard enough, already after 10 seconds, my hand tingles. What am I doing here? Same thing what you see on the bottom right picture. I block the oxygen and nutrition what goes through the muscle to be healthy. So I'm so pleased again that you're here, Dr. Angel, because not only you understand the pain cycle of the horse, the pain scale, also understand from the holistic side of you, it's not always injections. It's not always burning the nerves. Yes, you have the veterinary degree, but you find such a cool way to help these horses. And in your academy, in your program, you offer a lot of courses online. Yes, I'm a pretty black and white person. As a matter of fact, I've been born so many times that I start to rely sometimes too much on technology, like Dr. Tracy Turner shows here with the thermography. We can now measure pain in the horse's eye. But in the end of the day, technology advances. We can scan humans, we can scan horses, and it comes back to the oldest thing that our ancestors did. Stay away from the negative reflex points. So once more, today we talk about this area, and I'm so happy that you're here with me today. Maybe you can explain a little bit to our audience how important it is, or what these functions of the latissimus is. And then after we talk that a little bit, maybe you can go to the next one, the pectoralis.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you for having me. It's kind of sad that this is our last little video of the series, because it's been fun doing this. And I think we've helped a lot of people think about things that they maybe otherwise wouldn't have thought about. But yeah, you can see where those points are, and you can see that, the girth or the cinch would definitely could impact that. So the biggest thing would be movement of the shoulder of the horse. The horse is not going to be able to move it correctly if those points are being, pressed on, which is definitely going to alter the gait. It's going to affect lateral movement. It's going to affect, in the end, just general overall movement of that horse being able to move properly and collect properly. So definitely it plays a big role in that. I actually personally started using what they call it, a shoulder relief cinch or girth, that kind of sits in such a way that it purposefully sits so it's not putting pressure on those points. I've been using one of those for a long time now with my horses. But yeah, it definitely can impact that.
Tell us about the insertion origin of the latissimus.
Well, so where it's inserting, it's going to be, I don't know. You got me off guard on that one.
Okay.
Brain fart.
Now, let me, please correct me if I'm wrong, but if you use this as a picture here, and it's inserts into a fascia plate, which is underneath the saddle.
Yes.
Right. So it's a superficial muscle,
Mm-hmm.
and it originates at the upper arm. So it attaches to this
Just
part.
behind the.
Is this what I understood correctly? Because this has been years ago. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Correct.
So, and when the buckle hits this edge here,
Mm-hmm.
so because we need to also look at the horse from the top.
Mm-hmm.
In this picture here, the girth will always want to slide forward, like I showed you in the other one. But if you look at if I would cut this horse in half, like vertical, then the widest spot is actually here. So if I'm showing my hand, this fingernails are my withers, The
Mhm.
bottom is the sternum. This wider spot here, okay, that's where your leg goes over,
Mhm.
okay, and that's very in a very close vicinity where this edge is over. So I don't see this often on Western, hardly ever,
Mhm.
on English, hardly ever, except when you have a billet extender.
Oh, okay.
See, when you girth up the short billets in English saddle, the buckle edge, the bump of the buckle, sits often underneath the rider's thigh. And if
Mhm.
you're a jumper rider, your leg is a little angled. Okay, so you have your leg a little bit like that, and the buckle is in this area. Right, so then you can lift up the flap and girth up the buckle. As a dressage rider, not so much preferred because there's now a bump between your lower part of your upper thigh, and you can feel that buckle. Why? Because it's between your stirrup leather and your leg. So that's where you see the majority of the dressage saddles have long billets, so the bump disappears.
Mhm.
Do, however, see in school saddles, okay, often there's many horses, many saddles, many girth, and then you run around and say, oh, I don't have the right girth length now. Oh, let's get a billet extender. So what they do, they put it looks like two mini girth or two mini belts stitched together. So they put that buckle here, and then the billet hangs to here. And then the too short girth gets buckled right here. So what's wrong with this problem?
Yeah, so it's
First
right
of
over
all,
the points.
exactly, right? So it gets buckled exactly on the widest point, and then it goes back what you were saying.
Mhm.
So it's this movement. Second biggest problem is it creates such a bulk underneath your calf or leg that why would I get at the widest part where the flap is, the stirrup leather is, the leg is, a bump? Have you ever had a carpet or a runner where there's a stone underneath? What will happen to the material after a while?
It'll wear out.
Wear out, because that's where the biggest friction point is, over that stone, right? And that's where you see sometimes buckle guards come in effect, or flaps when they get a problem. But what about the horse besides shoulder restriction? Right? I create often a behavior. I said, oh, that horse is nasty. You need some special cowboying or special treatment. Think about yourself. Have you ever walked with your friends down the aisle and somebody else thought pretty cool comes from behind and takes two fingers and hits you right here on the side? You go, what was that?
Mhm.
You hate it with the passion.
Yeah.
Someone hits you on this latissimus. And Dr. Angel, it's sometimes so weird, you know. People tell me stories and tell me something, and goes over my head. But when somebody says how I would feel,
Mhm.
and where that is on my body, oh, finally I get it.
Yeah. I think everybody's been pushed at that point and at one point in their lives, and you definitely know how it feels. It's not comfortable.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you're saying, if there's that much pressure constantly on that point, that would definitely affect the horse. I mean, they can only ignore it for so long.
Absolutely. Now, the other items I have seen often is we don't see a lot of problems on girth or saddle fitting issues here. Okay, we see a lot here, and this is the pectoralis,
Mhm.
right? So the pectoralis muscle is incredible when you see a jumping horse properly use it, right? You can see a jumping horse jump like
Mhm.
that or like that. Really
Mhm.
stretches the pectoralis muscle, right? You can try it yourself. So when a good jumping horse has no saddle fitting issue because the saddle doesn't hit any of those points we have discussed previously or today, it is incredible. It's incredible how many different girths are out there today, which actually create the opposite I want as a rider. Okay, so some of them are bypass the pectoralis muscle completely, the girth.
Mhm.
Some of them sit right on the edge, and unfortunately, it's almost an astonishing number. Over 65% of all dressage girth, which has a long billet, they sit right here. Okay. Yes, they know they got to free the elbow, but from the elbow, 10 inches up, 4 inches up, 10 centimeter. That is something you do not want to poke around it. Every single horse, what gets trained, I don't care if you're a backyard rider or the next Olympian to be, when the horse carries weight, even donkeys or mules or pleasure horses, when they carry weight, the entire trunk hangs from the serratus, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Angel, and the pectoralis. So it's not like with humans collarbone. So as soon as there's weight on it, these muscles get active and get used more when you don't put weight on it. Very long, because it's how anatomy works. So now when I get a horse that gets wider, you can actually see how the chest gets wider, especially from when you start them young to later on, right? They get wider. But often we forget to get another girth, a longer one. I see very, very often, not in the Western world, but in the English world, a too short girth. Here's an example. A quarter horse anywhere from 14.2 to 15.2, okay, has an average cinch of 28 to 32 inch girth. Just keep that in your head. A dressage horse anywhere from 16.2 to 17.3 has 24 inch girth to 26. What's with that? Huh? So, so the problem is if in case the billets extend. Yeah, so let the billets extend. I'm talking about the buckle. The girths do not extend.
Yeah.
Okay. So what happens when the shoulder gets wider, when the pectoralis muscle gets wider? Let's associate ourselves first to the pain of the rider. Okay. So who likes to have any? First veterinarian told me about the bra strap. I said, I'm sorry, lady, I can't relate. But who wants anything that cuts into the pectoralis muscle, or a strap what cuts in here? Right? You mentioned earlier restricts the movement. So I thought, okay, makes sense. And if you go to the horse, you can go and play with it. You will see he's not going to like you. You can easily find the elbow, go 4 inches up, and you go and tick.
It's a sore spot, yeah.
He's going to bite you.
Yeah.
Right? So never mind about says, after 20 minutes, he's numb and then he's good. He's stopped being a bitch. What? What did you say? Oh, the horse is just a little bit angry every time I go. Maybe. And this is why I said in the beginning of our talk, maybe. What we really needed is a longer girth. You want the girth to end up here. Like, here's the best part. In the Western world, they understood that for years, because if this is the horse, the higher I go, just below the widest part, it pulls actually away. It actually pulls away from the horse. Okay. So if you have a hard-boiled egg and you hold it in the air, and then you put an elastic band, really, really tight elastic band around it. Where is it the tightest? On the top and on the bottom. You can take a toothpick and put that toothpick between the hard-boiled egg and the tight elastic. You won't believe how easy that is here. Hardly any pressure. So I use this egg as an example of the shape of the horse's rib cage, withers being the top. So maybe a different topic about different type of girth, because that alone can cost easily a half an hour discussion from all the different type of girth is out. But my point is, if the small horses, Western horses, have figured out the longer the girth, so long it's away from this muscle, the latissimus, the more stability I get from side to side, because the buckle does not want to go, the girth does not want to go over an area what is wider. So it actually creates stability. Shorter the girth, you have three main factors. Number one, Saddle is very unstable. Number two, the horse really, 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 really hates it when you put the buckle there. And number three, if I have find it. If I have a saddle with long billets, there you go. Okay, these long billets. If here's my hand is where the pad ends, the saddle pad. Here's where the girth ends up. Many horses gets pinched in between here. When their skin comes in between, when you girth it up. So now you wonder, you bend the horse left, you bend the horse right, and he whoops, jumps away. See, on the Western girth, it never happens. You have one latitude.
Yeah.
On your side, there are many have the, I call that pinching. Who likes that? Who likes any skin pinch?
Nobody would like to be pinched. And as you mentioned too, I think a lot of owners don't realize, like you said, that they have to change the girth as the horse, builds up muscle and grows and tones up.
Right. And this is something what sounds like a sales pitch, but maybe you have an extra longer one in the barn. The fact that I don't have to over tighten the girth. I mean, you must have seen this a lot. How many problems, like either right with a too loose girth, which is just as bad, or with a super tight girth.
Yeah. A lot of people tend to over tighten it.
Go ahead.
I said a lot of people tend to over tighten it.
Yeah. Right. And it's unbelievable crazy. And maybe in 1 hour new series, you and I may wink come up with. We can talk about the little easy tests we can do with pencils and elastic bands and all that stuff, which is actually a little fun because you can teach your children or a pony club, or you can teach it to your friends, how to do a quick girth check. So simple. And yet people say, well, if it's so simple, why doesn't everybody does it? Because it's so simple, people think it's not necessary.
Yeah.
But the cool part is, if you do that and then ride your horse with something what doesn't feel so good when you do the pen test, and then you do it, oh yeah, the pen test worked, easy, I figured it out, I even did the elastic test, oh yeah, makes sense. And then you're like, ooh, now you think, oh yeah, I pre-programmed my brain and I think it gotta be good, right? But the horse, the horse is so honest, like the day is long. They just want to please. And I bet you, when you treat horses, or when your student learned what you learned and said, why doesn't everybody do it?
No,
Did it ever happen in your profession?
Yeah. And I've had a couple horse owners tell me, which kind of shocked me, but I guess it was kind of a common thing that people do, because they said the horse oftentimes, they say that they hold in air so they can't get the, the girth or the cinch tight enough. So they said that they would knee the horse in the side to get them to like let out a breath so they could tighten it up more. So I'm like, really? Because they think the horse is behaviorally being bad by not letting them tighten it, to the point where they think it needs to be tightened to. So,
see, in today's world, where we're living in such fast techno world, I call it, and where you see ads, you don't even know, is this even a real human? Is this fake news? Is this reality, or is this something made to believe?
Yeah.
The cool part is the horse is like it was for a million years the same. They're not getting out there to, like you said, being bad or to sell you something or put in a show. If we understand the science of the horses and we follow what our ancestors say, it's okay. If you scratch the horse on the withers with your fingernail, most likely they want to groom you back. Okay. Yep. So, and the same thing with what we're trying to teach you now. We just heard from Dr. Angel how important it is to use for the horse the latissimus. I briefly mentioned the circle of muscles, or the thoracic sling. We've heard also part of that is the pectoralis muscle, what helps the horse to lift the ribcage that comes off the front. Isn't that what this is all about?
Yeah, Yeah,
Yeah.
most definitely. I think horse owners need to learn how to determine, what their horse is feeling and be able to see signs of pain. A lot of times things that they call behavioral are the horse trying to, tell them that they're in pain or get away from something that's causing pain. So I think it's really important for horse owners to just be educated on that. So stuff like the programs that you and I both teach and the courses that we offer help them determine, if the horse is in pain and what you can do about it. But I think the number one thing is just determining if they are in pain, because a lot of owners don't realize it. A lot of horses are stoic. They want to please you, like you were saying. They really want to make people happy. And a lot of times the owners just don't really see the subtle signs of pain and discomfort.
Yeah. There's a massive shift in Europe right now, and of course here as well, that the people speak up. People don't like to see the horse abuse anymore, what is out there. And I'm not just talking about the racing or the Western world or the upper level dressage riders, just in general, So if you walk by somebody and you say, why is that dog barking all the time? Or why do you keep him in the little tiny cage all the time? People think, oh, that's dog abuse. See, our eye is trained to see the dog running around the house and running free. But boy, if we see a dog scooped up in a little tiny box, like most of the horses are today, people go nuts. So we think a horse in a 10x10 is normal to be there for 23 hours and 1 hour riding.
Yeah.
And
the worst thing you can do for them.
That's right. And just where does abuse start? And this is not a depressive session here. All what I'm saying is we do a lot of things in our horses world. And no matter what you do, Western or dressage or English rider, what Dr. Angel I try to get across, there is a lot out there when it comes to saddles, girth, pads, what can be sometimes overwhelming, confusing. Sometimes it's a sale running, or sometimes it's a popular brand, or sometimes it's somebody says, oh, you should get this. The horse will always react, sometimes negative, if you hit one of those 14 points, what this series was all about.
Yes, definitely.
And
if they missed the other episodes, they should go back and watch them.
Well, I learned a lot doing this together with you. I hope that my students take the advantage and check out your academy and vice versa. And my motto is always, if you're in a room and you think you're the smartest one, you're in the wrong room. So I'm absolutely delighted that you give me your time, Dr. Angel, and that I learned from you so much. And learning is the only thing what keeps me excited, alive, going forward, because I know at the end of the day is all the horses who will benefit from it. Isn't that why you do what you do?
Most definitely. Yeah, it's the same thing. The more people we can educate, the more horses we can help. And I know I've mentioned it before, but if people want to go to my website, which is up there, the Holistic Animal Studies, you can find a link to a free course that we offer that will teach you how to determine if your horse is in pain, gives you some tips about palpation and gait analysis and things of that nature. Definitely something that I think every horse owner should know, which is why we offer it for free. And as I've mentioned to you before, we can't fix the horses with all the body work in the world if we don't address tack and saddle fit. So very important, definitely goes hand in hand. So I encourage everybody to, like you said, just educate yourselves on it and learn as much as you can. And we're here for you. If you have any questions, just feel free to reach out, because that's what we do, right?
Exactly.
We try to help the horses.
At this point, I'd like to say thank you once more for everybody who was watching. A special thank you to you, Dr. Angel. It was a delight, an honor, and I can't wait to come up with something new so we can do this again.
Sounds great. Thank you, Johan, and have a great rest of your day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you.